Ow! Oh no! Oh no! What the? God. My elbow. Oh no! Ah! This is not good! This is not supposed to happen! This is yoga. I know it's controversial. You might need to relax a little bit, so I'm gonna play some relaxing music. Relaxing music, go. I don't really like that. That's not very good. Relaxing music, change again, go. All right, let's get started.
What the hell?
Here at What the Heaven, I answer questions that people send to me. They send me questions on Instagram. They send me questions down in the comments below. If you want to have a question answered, go ahead and post something there. Go ahead and subscribe to hear some weird, funny, nerdy answers about things in the Bible. But somebody messaged me on Instagram and she asked me this. She said, are Christians allowed to do yoga? As in Kundalini, mantra-filled, I don't know what that is, mantra-filled yoga. I know it's something weird in Christianity because it's associated with Hinduism, but personally I find it super beneficial. Haha, thank you. So I'm going to be relaxing throughout this episode. It's very nice. I don't know what this yoga ball is supposed to be used for, but I'll figure it out. But I don't know if you saw it in the comment, but the person who sent this to me, I know who she is, and she needed to be anonymous because she said she couldn't ask her parents or her pastor because she was afraid to be judged. So first of all, I'm going to talk about this specifically. And then secondly, thank you for asking. Now, if you want to know, I'm just scrolling up my notes here as I lie down. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why it's okay. And if you get bored, at the very end, I'm going to show you something that people have been doing, that Christians have been doing for over 1,000 years that is very, very similar to the yoga that a lot of Christians who don't like yoga say is evil. And actually, there's a Christian way of doing all of it, and it's not cheesy, and it's not like Christian worship yoga. It's actually really cool. I don't really want to use this. Okay, so first I asked the girl, what is Kundalini yoga? And here's what she said. She messaged me back. She said, Kundalini is an ancient yoga practice incorporating physical movements, breathing techniques, and the chanting of a mantra or a prayer to enhance mindfulness and physical strength. So basically I researched it a little bit more, and it's like yoga with a Hindu catchphrase. But when I looked it up, I found this site. I'm gonna put this site up on the screen right now. And they use Comic Sans to show their Hindu prayers. We just need to start a rule right now on What the Heaven. If you use Comic Sans in a prayer, we should be a little bit skeptical. All right, let's figure out what the heaven we should do about yoga. Okay, so fun piece of trivia as I try to balance myself out here. Yoga is a Sanskrit word for joining or union. And what people who practice yoga and people who think that we shouldn't practice yoga, what they believe is that by putting your body in a position, by saying these mantra prayers, you can achieve a union, you can achieve a joining with a god. Oh no, I'm falling again. Ah. Okay, I'm not gonna do any more back stretches. I can't do that. But in 1 John chapter 5, here's something really crazy. It says that people who have Jesus inside of them, Satan can't touch them. But the Greek word that we use for touch, the Greek word that John used for touch, that word means unite. And what it's saying here is that if you have Jesus inside of you, you cannot unite with Satan. You cannot unite with another power. So that's the first reason why it's okay for Christians to practice yoga. God is the only God, not Vishnu. There is only one God. Now, before I made this video, I did a lot of research on YouTube. Every single video on YouTube about should Christians do yoga is saying that Christians can't do yoga. But I watched, and this is weird, and I don't want to insult you, and if you disagree with me, it's okay. But we should not be scared of other religions. But all of the people who are anti-yoga are afraid of being connected, of being joined with a religion that doesn't exist. Sorry, yoga wears me out. So we gotta get this out of the way real quickly. Not all gods are created equal. Not all gods are gods. You know, if God is real, the Christian God, Yahweh, if he is real and he designed our body to feel good because we stretch a certain way, that's not another religion. That's God. I went to a baseball game the other day, and after I learned some yoga stretches, I saw some baseball players doing the exact same thing. They weren't practicing yoga. They were stretching their back so that they could compete. That has nothing to do with Hinduism. But then secondly, the Bible does say that there are spiritual dark forces that are opposed to God. Those exist. Did you know in the Bible that King Saul asked a witch to bring back the prophet Samuel back from the grave just so Saul could talk to him? That's not a movie. That's in the Bible. It's so weird. So there are dark spiritual forces that exist, but that's not what we're dealing with when we're dealing with yoga, when we're dealing with Hinduism. Instead, we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about, I'm trying to incorporate this, I don't know what this is. We're talking about gods, idols that don't exist at all. There's God. And then there's some dark forces. But then everything else, they're fake. They're phony. If a Christian tells you that yoga is wrong because it can connect you to a spiritual force, no, you need to remind them that the theme of the entire Bible is that there is only one God. There's not God and then small gods. No, there's God and that's it. We can't connect to a Hindu god through yoga because that Hindu god is fake. Okay, now with all of this being said, this video is gonna have some butts, some like big butts, some downward facing dog big butts. And here's the first one. Your parents do not think, people who are anti-yoga for Christians, they do not think you do a yoga pose and then poof, you become a Hindu. That's not what they think. Instead, they think it's like one of those freemium games where you download the game, you have fun, and then magically 3 days later, you've spent $10,000 on buying more gems so that you can buy more legendary cards in Clash Royale, just so you can level up those legendaries to level 6. Not that I've ever done that, but that's what they're afraid of with yoga, that it is a slippery slope away from a focus, a mental focus on God. So even if you're saying words to a God that doesn't exist in a language that you don't even speak, these mantras, they can take your mind off of God. They can take you away from God spiritually because your focus is on something other than God. Paul wrote this: "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." So focusing on a fake God, saying a fake prayer to a fake God, it's not anti-Christian, it's just a massive waste of time. So say, oh, get ready for dad jokes, say so long to Shiva, say Vishnu can vanish, say that Arjuna can't, I've got. So here's what it comes down to. Doing yoga stretches to make your body feel better, totally fine. But doing things to focus your mind on things that are not God, that's always bad. Ow, ow, ow.
That looks like it hurts.
Oh, no. How am I supposed to speak? Imagine you go to a friend's house. Go for like a steak dinner, this hurts so bad. A steak dinner, filet mignon dinner. And when they bring you the steaks, they slide the steaks onto your plate and go, "Oh, I'm so excited for you to have this. We just sacrificed this. We just designated this steak for the idol that we worship." You'd be like, "What? What the heck? Is that for real?" So this is the second So this is the second reason why it's okay for Christians to practice yoga. I'm going to become the first person ever to talk about 1 Corinthians while doing downward facing dog. In 1 Corinthians, Paul wrote about something really, really similar to this. I'm going to sit down. When Christians were put in a situation dealing with meat, my favorite subject, but meat that had been offered to other idols. Paul said it wasn't a big deal because those idols, just like Hindu gods, they're fake. Okay, this is the pose that you get used to. So what Paul said was that the meat never changed because the idol was fake. So Christians were free to eat the meat sacrificed to idols because the idols weren't real. Paul said an idol is nothing at all in the world, and there is only one God. And in the same way, simply practicing yoga, your body isn't changing. You are not connecting to a God because that God doesn't exist. So it really is not a sin or a sin issue. So if your body feels better doing yoga, do it. If your back, like mine, is getting stretched and it feels good, do it because God designed your body to be like that. But here's big but number 2. There's a really big but with this, with what Paul says exactly after this moment. So in 1 Corinthians, Paul says, if eating meat that is sacrificed to an idol would cause another Christian to have a spiritual problem, then don't touch the meat. Not all Christians are able to understand that it's okay. So if it's gonna be a problem, don't do it. It's kind of like this. I like wine. I really like red wine. And sometimes when I'm going to a friend's house, I will take a bottle of, Argentinian Malbec to my friend's house. But I have a friend, and he said that his wife is spiritually opposed to drinking. She thinks that the Bible doesn't think that we should drink. And I disagree with her. But what Paul said is that if that's going to cause a problem with anything, meat, yoga, wine, just don't do it. So what I told my friend was, I won't bring the wine, I'll bring Dr. Pepper. You know why? Because it's not that big of a deal. I can drink wine tomorrow. I can drink wine another time. But if I'm going to cause a Christian brother or sister to have a spiritual problem by doing anything, just don't do it. And what Paul says is that if you eat the meat sacrificed to an idol knowing that it's going to cause a problem, even though it's not a spiritual issue, just by causing another Christian to be frustrated in their spirituality, Paul says it's a sin against Christ. So going back to the original question on Instagram, this connects with your parents and your pastor. There is no reason that a Christian can't do yoga, but if it's going to cause an argument, if it's going to cause problem in your church, if it's going to cause a problem between you and your parents, don't do it. Yoga isn't that great that it should be used to start an argument. So, if a Christian tells you to not do yoga, now I'm going to lower my back, ouch, you need to make sure that they don't celebrate Christmas, because December 25th was a Roman holiday worshiping the god of Saturn. And you need to make sure that they don't use Christmas trees either, because they have pagan roots as well. In fact, Christians have not used them for the majority of Christmas. And that's the third reason why it's okay for Christians to practice yoga. Christianity is not about running away. Christianity is about redemption. God doesn't blow us up because we sin. God redeems us despite our sin. There's an awesome book by the author Tony Jones, and he writes about all of these old, ancient Christian traditions that people have been practicing in some ways for more than 1,000 years. And one of these techniques is called the centering prayer. And when I learned about the centering prayer, I learned that it was really, really similar to what some people call mindfulness meditation. So in the book, Jones writes about a couple and their 27-year-old son died in a car accident, and they tried everything to get over the grief. They were rightfully depressed, and no amount of prayer, at least the traditional prayer, no medicine, no therapy, could help them get over it. But after doing the centering prayer for a year, they were able to overcome their grief. The centering prayer is crazy simple. It's about quieting your heart and quieting your mind. So what you do is you pick a word, and for Christians what we do is we pick a word that is a one-syllable word associated with God. The word I like to do when I'm practicing the centering prayer or this kind of meditation is to use the word peace. And the goal behind that is that we are relaxing, we're meditating, but we're focusing our mind on God, not a fake Hindu God. So as you clear your mind and you try to think about nothing, whenever a thought comes into your mind, whenever your brain gets distracted thinking about French fries or doing a vlog or going to work, you just say the word peace or the word love to center your mind back on clearing your mind. You know what you don't do? You don't say a prayer in another language to a God that doesn't exist. Jesus knew that in our mind, we can get worked up, we can get worried. And that's why a lot of the things that Jesus said had to do with not worrying and trusting God. Jesus said that we should look at the lilies of the field, look at the birds. They have everything they need and they don't worry, but we do. And one of the ways that we can stop worrying, one of the ways that we can relax is to clear our mind. And that is a mental discipline. We have spiritual disciplines, we have physical disciplines. I don't know any of those, but there are also mental disciplines that can help us be less stressed and be less worried and also focus on God. And the weirdest part about this, none of this is new age, none of this is new spiritual mysticism, none of this is some liberal plot. Christians have been practicing the centering prayer for over 1,000 years. Catholic priests, Catholic nuns still do this, but just someday we decided because another religion practices meditation, Christians can't. That makes no sense at all. If a mental discipline can help us become more disciplined and focus on God, that's not another religion. That's something that God created our bodies to do. To deny the fact that meditation helps us grow denies that God is the creator God. So I had to go through a training one day at my school, and they taught us about ADHD. And during the presentation, they made a list of all of the different symptoms, all of the different behaviors of ADHD. And I realized I have every single one of those things. I have an incredibly hard time being focused, and I have to use meditation as one of the techniques. I actually am doing this pose, so I'm just terrible at it. I have to use a lot of techniques to help me keep my brain on track. That has nothing to do with another religion. It's the way that I am, and it's the way that God helps me, the way that God made my, the way that God made my brain work. Meditation is the way that I train my brain to stay on focus, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's the same thing as memorizing a deck of cards, which is apparently a really good way to focus your mental energy, and it's also the same as using a mnemonic device to help you remember things. I'm using a proven psychological tool to help me focus. That's not Hinduism, that's biology, and God made biology. But there's a but. There's a very big but. And here's the big but. I would never repeat a Hindu phrase. I would never repeat a phrase I don't understand while I'm doing yoga. Don't repeat something that takes your mind away from the fact that God is the creator. There's a word for that if you do. It's called idolatry. So here's a solution. Find a Christian mantra, find a Christian word, find the word love. Shoot, use anything, and use that to clear your mind and to center your heart on God. It's the same thing as mindfulness meditation, except instead of pointing your mind nowhere, it's pointing your mind towards the Creator. Paul said that he disciplined his body and kept it under control so that he wouldn't be disqualified from the prize, which was the gospel of Jesus. I realized I look like a seal right now. That's kind of weird. There is nothing wrong with mental practices that help us focus, and there's nothing wrong with spiritual practices that help us focus on God. So, for Christians, is yoga okay? Absolutely, as long as you don't focus on fake gods, fake prayers, and things that don't exist. Just don't do anything in the world that takes your mind away from God. So go ahead and stretch that core, perfect that posture. It's all good. I don't know why I'm holding this, but also meditation is good as long as you're able to meditate on things that are good, things that are pure, and things that are holy. Other than that, the Hindu gods, they're fake. They don't matter. There is only one God, and he's the only God that exists. That's it. Thanks so much for watching What the Heaven. If you enjoyed this episode, it'd be awesome if you click the subscribe button down below in one of the corners. I don't know where it is. Also, it'd be even better if you submitted a comment, submitted a question that could inspire another episode. All right, I hope you had a good time. I'll see you next week.